Hello everyone, it's me Wills. We haven't been on for quite some time, but we're going to do something before Christmas. It's a Monet. It's a painting that you can do for anybody as a gift or for yourself, and it's a very quick version of Monet's water lilies. I think he drew about 740 different ones, but this is one of the well-known ones, and we're going to take a section of it and put it onto a large canvas here. It's a nice large canvas, it's about 2 by 3 feet, and it'll make a perfect present and be done very quickly and relatively cheaply. So I'm going to sketch with an oil pastel. You can sketch with anything, it doesn't matter. But I want to do this quite quickly. So here's the lilies at the top. And then there's a space. There are more lilies here and here, and they go around in a group. Some up here. There's a green area there, that's the top end. Then we've got a whole group of lilies here, another group here, and then there are odd water lilies down at the bottom here. So let's put one in here, one in here, and there's 2 here. One like that, one like this. There's a whole load here, so they're all sort of stuck together, these little group of lilies. You don't have to worry too much. Just look at the painting, lilies in place where you feel that you want them to be. It's a little bit Bob Ross style. You can't go wrong. Whatever you want on this is your gift to somebody or your gift to yourself for Christmas. Something really nice to put in the house, hang on the wall. Big lily pad there, and there are flowers, lily flowers. So just do a few circular bits where there are lily flowers. Okay, that will do for my sketch. Now I'm going to slap on some gel and some paint. I'm going to use a medium, and those of you who've seen my stuff before know that I use Win-Gel's Liquin. This is a large one. You don't need to buy a large one like this. You can buy them in little bottles like this. Win-Gel or Liquin. It doesn't really matter too much. They're just different densities, different thicknesses. I've put a load of that Win-Gel liquid into this bottle to make life a bit easier for me. And I'm using an ordinary large paintbrush, look. We don't have to be too fancy. And I'm just painting it straight on. Now, the only thing about these Win-Gels, Win-Gel because it's Winsor & Newton, I'm just using Winsor & Newton, there are others. The only thing about them is they have a slight pinky yellow tinge to them. That will be overcome by the oil paint. But we want a wet surface to make this quick. Unbelievably quick for such a large painting. So we're painting wet on wet. Also you'll get brush marks. You want it to look like it's an original. You're giving somebody a gift. You want it to look like a proper painting. Now of course we can't use Monet's name. You can probably say in the style of Monet on your painting, but who wants to do that? You can sign it in your own name, or you can put after Monet written in capitals or something at the bottom of the painting. It's up to you. Or don't put anything on at all. Just do the painting. There aren't many people who don't recognise Monet's style. Now, dear old Monet, we know Monet was French, and I've said before he had terrible eyesight for most of his life. He had cataracts. That impeded some of his work. See if I can see any bits that I've missed. I haven't. But in actual fact, he was a bit of a genius painter, Monet. Show you the tubes that I'm using. These are Dahlia Rowney oil paints, and they're quite a small, compact little tube, and that makes them less expensive. You don't have to buy tubes like this. You don't have to buy those. I like to have some big tubes. These are very handy when you're out in the field as well, but you don't have to spend loads of money. So I'm just going to put these back down to where my other paints are, and I think you pay about £10 for a canvas like that normally. You can buy canvases lots of places now, you don't have to go to an art shop. So about £10 for the canvas, and I think you'll probably spend about £8, £10 on oil paint. So for £20 you're going to give somebody a gift that's very unique, like nothing they've had before. Okay, I'm going to mix a colour now. So these are new paints that I'm using here. And I've got a sort of an ultramarine blue and this sort of turquoisey blue here to do the mid area. Sort of a rich blue. And I'm going to add to that a whole load of wind gel. So wind gel, slop it in. Pop that down. Quite a nice colour, but it's a little dark and it's not quite purpley enough. So just going to find a purple. Purple's in this one. A little bit of purple in. I'm going to use my large white because it's just handy for me. Up to the mid-range here. Using the household brush, as you see. This particular painting, this particular version of Water Lilies is directional. Monet used short, sharp strokes. And these ones run like this. So, although they look like they've been done with a large brush, by the time we've finished they'll look pretty good. All this at the top will be darker eventually. Just going to drop this little bit of purple in. That's sort of the basic layout. So the pond goes darker at the top as well, because it's showing the shadow behind the back of the pond. And that is the basic layout of the water. What we've done is put this blue in, some of the foreground, some of the background. You see it's darker here, but we'll do that later in the style of Monet with short, sharp brush strokes. So what we'll do now is pick out some of these water lilies, and we need white and pale green, because these water lilies are showing the sky shining down onto them. So I've got a couple of greens here, leaf green and a pale minty green. I've got some white and I've got some gel. So I'm going to mix as I go. I'm going to do it the way old Monet would have done it. Mix as I go. I'm going to put this as my first touch of white. Put that in as my first water lily. So let's put a little bit of shape to it. I'm not using too much gel in the paint now, because I want to start having it look as if it's got proper brush strokes. There's a white there, just dab it on. There's a large one, maybe here. You see what happens when you put that on? It pushes an edge of blue paint around. I'm not being too fussy. However it comes out, it comes out. But you notice I'm trying to get those white dots. They are white dots, believe me. I'm trying to get those white dots or to this end of those water lilies, because that's the way the light is coming in. Don't worry too much about the shapes, they're roughly ovals. But because Monet is painting them from seeing the reflections more than anything else. Might have to go back and put one more white on at some point. Then we've got several here. I'm working and looking at one of Monet's paintings. You can do that by downloading onto your computer. Okay. Now I've got some very light ones. So I've just put a little bit more white in, you see, because I've got some lighter lilies to show you. Okay. And they go There's a very white one there. You see those accidents where other paint comes on, leave them as they are. They look like deliberate acts of painting. Lily there, big lily here. I'm not worrying too much about form or anything else, just splotting things in, because Moni would have done that on a lot of his paintings. This particular painting is huge, the real painting is huge, so he had plenty of scope to just paint freely, which is what he did. So okay, there's another bunch here, up here, so they are showing as mostly whites here. I'm going to stop the water lilies for a minute, and I'm going to darken the water around the lilies to show you that some are nearer and some are further. So that's the next thing. So I've got purple here, a little bit of purple. This is my original blue, as you remember. I'm going to splot a bit of that blue into here. Still got gel mixed in it. Get rid of that. Then I've got a clean flat brush. I should have said the brush I started with was actually a flitch. It's got an angle to it, it's a flitch. Doesn't need to be. I could have done it with anything. I could have painted with my finger. It would have been just as good. I picked up a clean flat brush here. And with that paint I'm mixing in some purple into that paint. Going over to our water lilies that we've put on, so I'm going to do this in Monet's style, using this darker blue here that I've made. Okay, that's how that bit should be looking, and that is the shadow in the water underneath that water lily. We're going to put a lily flower in here in a moment, and then you'll get some idea of how this painting is going to come out. But in the meantime, a little more of our purpley water. You see now the action of this darker paint is lifting those water lilies up. There's another area where we'll have a lily flower. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll point out with this where the base of those lily flowers will be. So there's one there, and there's one there. Okay, and they will be pink water lilies. Just lift the brush on and off to get different shades. Put more paint on by pressing on the brush like this. And then if you go lightly, little short sharp strokes, it will mix in with the paint. I'm just going over to this right hand side for a moment. I like to keep the balance as I paint. This is quite Monet-ish as well, so I'm quite pleased. So what I'm going to do is stop for a moment and put on those water lily flowers so that you start getting an idea of how this is going to look when it's finished. Quite difficult to see on this because I use these old meat packaging things, but I've got a pale pink and a crimson. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of crimson into that pink. So made that pink up there, and I've got a small flat brush look. Okay, you could use anything really. So across to here, onto the painting, and this here is a little water lily. And this is the base here of this water lily. I'm just going to have to mix a little bit more pink for that. You see that Monet's water lilies just look like splodges. That's how you saw them. You need plenty of paint on your brush, and spot it on. Will do. That's a water lily. So we need to get some bigger areas in now. So I'm going to go up to here where I put some pale and white in, and I'm going to put the background in a little bit more. So this particular painting of Monet's, he has the reflection of trees and bushes that make the water stand out. So that's what we're going to do next. So I've picked up the brush that I was using earlier with the dark and blue areas. I've put in a little bit of purple. I've got sap green and a dark green and a leaf green here together. I'm just going to mix as I go. So let's see what's in the brush. Okay, I'm going up under here with a little bit of the purple. Show depth of water, and then some purple strips under here. Okay, then I'm going for the green. Fairly dull green is what I want. You see it's lifting the paint that's underneath it because of the gel that we started with. Lifting it and separating it away. Use the brush lightly. I'm using the brush on edge. Doing it directionally. Going very lightly here because I want to bring the blue up. And then that purple needs to be darker again. So just dabbling it into the purple. Okay. It's coming on well. Just working it like Monet, short, sharp strokes. Needs to have a lot of yellow in here. We'll come back onto that. So in this part of the painting, Monet is trying to show the movement in the water and the bottom of the pond. So I've gone back to my two earlier palettes. I've gone to the blue that I started with and this purpley one, and I've added some white, as you can see. And I'm going to do things with that. So I'm using the purpley brush in the blue paint. So I'm just doing this slightly darker area that comes up to the water lilies and this movement that Monet has put into the water. Little sharp movements of the brush. Don't worry over much, don't worry about mistakes. We can put things right at the end, but normally you wouldn't need to. And you see the paint just mixes itself really. We don't have to be exactly true to Monet's painting. What we're doing is working in his style. So now the blue and the white. I think I've got a fairly blue brush here. And we're picking up the white from the other palette. Now, just flicking it onto the canvas. Get a bit more white into the blue. quite pleased with that. It's very Monet at the moment, that part. Then he's got white down here. Then we've got some pale purple going in here, so I'm dabbing in the purple and the white. These are obviously reflections of something or other onto the water. Dabble in the purple, make this darker. I'm just dabbing at paint as I see it on the palettes. Putting it on if it looks like the colour and shade that has been used in the painting. We're not going to worry over much. You can't make too many mistakes on this. Okay, I'm not going to do any more to that middle piece now. It's very much the way Monet worked it in the original picture. So there are things to do here. There are greens to put in, and then there are more water lilies up here. But we're halfway through this painting. I'm going to work now on this cluster here of water lilies. It's very difficult, this one, because I don't know quite which colours Monet used first. So it looks like he's done some of these in the middle. Now when you're doing your version of this, or version of a water lilies or a Monet for your Christmas gift for somebody, don't worry too much about how you put the paint on. It'll come out okay. Don't worry too much about the shapes. Monet didn't. He just worried about what he saw. Right. Need some pale. I think I can see what he's done. These down here are quite greenish. Just work round. It's an ellipse shape really, so just work it round into that ellipse shape as you paint. I'm using quite a big flat brush again, a Flitch again actually. Just going to put a bit of green into that background, and then I'm going back to use white, using solid white in a thick sort of form. Oh yeah. So there's one water lily with sun on it. That's another one. Just put two white ellipses in, and then we'll have a look at the shadow. There's some other green here. So I've got my purples with bits of blue in, and I've squirted in some fresh purple out the tube. Made a bit of an error. Just going to wipe the brush. A little bit of a waste of paint, I know, but there's all sorts of colours on this brush. There's even a little bit of green. And I really want this purple to be relatively dark. So dabble it in again. So what is done here is underline, sort of underscore. These water lilies. You see I'm wiggling the brush about as I paint. It'll all work into the painting. Don't worry that I'm doing something clever and arty. This will work into the painting. It will be in a sort of a Monet style. Okay? Because of his bad vision, he would have probably lined things in this way. I'm still looking at the picture, it's over here on my left. I'm looking at the picture on my laptop here on my left and just really doing my own version of what Monet's done. And this cluster here that I'm doing at the moment, you can see the purple outlines. Okay, so back to the painting. So I've got some stuff that's around a flower, a lily, water lily. And then little bits underneath these lilies here. And there's some paler stuff. Quite difficult because he's trying to make it look as if there's a lot going on. A lot of lilies, circular lilies all together. But because he worked at speed and because his eyesight was poor, he did it in this really sort of rustic fashion. And that's what you'd say, definitely rustic. And then he would go back and make circles in the lilies. Okay, we'll put some bits of blue in next. Okay, quite pleased with that so far. And that's coming on in the way that Monet did his. So here's my blue, big brush still. I'm going to try and work with it. So let's not worry too much. Let's go with it. Okay. And there's some bits of blue in here. It's certainly quite blue here. Oh yeah, like that. Okay. Right, next step. So I've picked up my little green palette again and popped a little bit of yellow in because there are lots of little yellow water lilies in this bit here. And he's dealt with them in a very quick sort of way. So here we go. Going to use some greens to do some little bits of outlining. So I actually picked up a clean, smaller, flat brush for this because I'm a bit unsure about how he's done these outlines. I'm not being really dead exact. Don't worry about being exact here. You've got to have a bit of confidence, a bit of life in the painting. The paint's still quite thin because I've got this underlay of gel on this. So the paint runs into itself. The colours mix a little bit on their own. That's fine. You can leave some thick areas of paint to show brush strokes as well. That's always rather nice. Just keep coming back to those elliptical shapes, just to show some little bits of ellipse here and there, little dashes of white here and there. Now, just going to clean my brush quickly, just a quick wipe off that excess paint. Drop that in the bin, otherwise it will get everywhere. Now I've got these yellows that I've added, cream and yellow. I'm going to pick up a bit of that white, mix it in with those. So I've got a mixture of pale, warm yellow here. Now, it's not quite yellow enough. We've got little dots all over of what are small water lilies coming through. Just need to do this shadow up here. I'm just going to put down my green for a minute and go for this purple. The green's a little bit rich, so I'm just going to put some brown in, light umber I think. Work like Monet. Little fast strokes. So I'm just picking up my purple palette again, purples and blues. I'm going to put a little bit of detail here in this part of the picture up here, just here. And I think it's just there to make this look as though it's floating. I've got a funny feeling that Monet called this particular picture floating. So let's make it float a little bit. I'm going to use the purple straight on the brush, going up here, and there are lots of little directional lines in purple up here. Right, I'm going to leave that alone now. I think that's okay, I think that's good enough. This little piece next. Now this is very wishy-washy. These are very low lilies lying right in the water. So there's a lot of green in the middle, then there's a lot of white around the edge, and again there are these little yellowy cream lily flowers in the centre. Two lots of greens I'm bringing back in, and there's some darkish green in the middle of this palette, and I've got this yellow here. I've just got them on the brush, both together. I'm trying to look at Monet's thing and put them in the same place. They're not going to come out the same. I don't mind as long as I'm still using his type of techniques. So these quick little movements, and this is what he thinks he's seeing. So let's do some little round bits here. Okay, just some little round bits up here. Right, we're going to put a little bit of purple back underneath to make it float a little bit. Okay, I might use the same brush, but what I'm going to do is wipe off some of the paint that's on it. So I'm taking off the excess green that's in the brush, but I'm leaving some green in. This is my Flitch that I've been using since the beginning, and I've got some white in with this green and some gel. See if I can hold those carefully like that. Dabble into the white, it's got bits of green mixed in with it. Let's put a gel in here, so I'll get some thin white around here. I'm trying to make it look like a little floating mat of lilies. Lily pads rather. Back to my purples. This is the brush that I was using with purple, and this is the little brush that I started with purple and ended up putting the yellows on. So I'm going to use them both. And I've added a little bit more purple straight from the tube. Pop that on the knee for a moment. So using the big brush, just get some lines in. Okay, onto the small brush. Get the paint off the big brush. Try not to waste anything. Okay, bit of purple in here, some in here. Just so it starts to look like lilies, lily pads. Okay, Okay, I don't think I'll do any more of that. I'm just going to go to another area just for a moment. I'm going to go just a little bit further up here. Well, I've got the purple on. Something that he was trying to achieve there, a little piece of depth in the water. Yeah, I think that's it. And then I'm going to go further up again to up here, while I've got purple on. Now I'm going to go back to the white here and just make that sort of smudgy effect that you like to use. And I probably will use this white that I've got in the corner of this palette. Okay, just clean the brush a little. Leave something in the brush, because these are the colours we're using. And then you see what I've done, I've run some blue into this white. If I push it back again, underneath is the white with a bit of blue in it. And that will do, that's the sort of thing I want. So I'm going here. And then we've got a few yellow water lilies to pop into this area. So I'm just going to find my, oh, I see a bit with no paint on. There's something that happens occasionally. Yeah, so I'm going to find my bit of yellow again and pop those little yellow water lilies in. Here's the yellow with my greens from earlier. Got a little bit of a darker yellow there. Mix it as I go. I think I like that yellow, I think I'll put it down here as well. A little bit in there. Monet was a very colourful painter. He liked his colour. He had a flowering cherry in his garden at home that he loved to have moved around the garden so that he could paint it in different places and at different times of the year. And I suppose it was one of the things he could see quite well. Just checking to see if I've got everything. I think there's one there. Okay. Right, those are the little water lilies amongst the lily pads. I think we'll call those done until the very end. There might be some little bits of touching up to do. We'll go back across to here because there's some interesting marks in this area. Interesting marks. Very Monet-ish. So that's our next area. It is up the top here. And in a moment I'll show you how that looks on the original. on the painting here, I'm doing this area here, and it's quite difficult. There's a lot of colour, and then these smudgy whites, they're in the colour, they're not on top of it particularly, they're in the colour, and then at the end it's gone back and then highlighted the whites. Then there are some small lily pads that show as pinks here, and they're still floating on the surface, and the surface of the water actually shows a reflection of what's behind it. Those are bushes, hedges and bits of sky. So this bit of sky up here is showing violet, and then there are violets in here and here. So I'm going to put the violet in first, then I'm going to put some of the green in and the first lot of white, and then I'm going to put the dark parts and then the pinks. So it's a little array of things. This is where I'm working up here. I've just picked up my purples and violets palette. I'm not going to worry too much about the exact shades. There's some violet here. I've got some gel here. I'm just going to pick some gel up. Oh yeah, that's done it. That's the violet that I want, I think. Yeah. One of those fortunate accidents. Mixing that green in because the green is obviously still wet. So I'm mixing that green in because I think that's what he's done there. Okay, we're getting there. There's some darker purples. Let's have a little bit of darker around here. Don't worry too much to be exact. What will happen is you'll have differences from the original, and that will make it even more individual to you. Yeah, I think that's working okay. Okay, so I'm going to look at the green now. This bit of green I've got here is too rich. Needs a little bit of brown and yellow running into it. Here's my green palette, and I've added 3 different greens here. Sap green in the middle, looks quite dark, doesn't it? And then I've added here some brown, mid-ochre tone and a sort of a chrome yellow. And I'm just going to use them all, and I'm going to dabble first of all my brush, a clean flitch actually, into a little bit of gel. So here we go, looking at the greens. So the colours are starting to mix together, and I think that's what we want. Right, we're dabbling here, because I want that purple and that green to mix together. So just dabbling about. We're into a difficult area up here. We're going to have to start putting the white and the dark in, so the light and the shade. As we know, Monet loved light and shade. So I'm just going to get rid of my green for a minute. I'm going to go back to my purples. I need a squirt of purple from the tube. We haven't actually used that many different tubes. This is quite an economical painting. I'm being a bit more careful here because I've got this white to put in and I'm a little bit worried about it. Okay, so we've got to look at the white. Now funnily enough, I've got a bit of white left there with blue in it. I'm going to use that as an underlayer to this white here. Just got to find myself a slightly cleaner brush. So I'm just going to do the underlayer white. That's a sort of a dirty white with blue and whatnot in it. Okay, that will do as the underlayer. Now we've got to pick out the dark areas, start putting the bright white in and the pinky bits. So we're now putting the white on, so I've spotted some white into my green here, still got the same brush. Just get a little bit of paint off. We're going to go up here to where we need some white putting in. So I'm using the white straight on the brush at the moment. Picked up my pink that I used earlier for these flowers at the bottom of the painting, and I'm going to use those up here where these are very pink. I'm just going to do something that's not in Monet and run a bit of pink up into this. So I'm going to call this area finished now, and we'll move over to this area on the other side at the top. Back to my original blue with the big brush. Next step will be green up here, and then some little bits of white, and that will be that top finished. Then we need to do this little bunch of lily pads here, and then we come right down to the foreground and finish off. Back with my green palette with some bits of brown still from earlier. It's exactly as I left it earlier. We want some dark. Let's let that brown out there. There's a streak of dark here. Still using those short, sharp strokes. Don't worry over too much about being deadly accurate. Okay, goes a bit higher than that. There's a little bit of purple there. I happen to have the purple here. And then we've got some white. So I've splotted some white on the end of this, and I'm using the back of the brush. Then turn the brush over. That will do for that. And a lot of this is then white. Just going to use this dirty white that's on the brush. Right, so I think we can call the top almost finished apart from some detail here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of white paint with this brush, with my green brush. Just so I know where the detail's going to go. That's made it a little bit easier and brought the end a little bit closer. So I'm going to come down to the bottom in a minute and get some of the detail into here. Some of some seaweed, blanket weed underneath that Monet shows just as dark lines. And then we'll underline all of this, underscore the lily pads to give them a little bit of shape and a little bit more colour. I'm going to do a little cheat and use a little bit of red in a lining to lift them off the page a little bit, and then we'll be calling it finished. I'm just going to come down here now. So going over to the picture, Monet has tried to get in some blanket weed running under these lilies. He's done it very roughly, and I'm going to do the same. But I've added to my green palette here. So I've added 3 types of green here, sap green in the middle, this nice sort of viridian here and a leafy green. I've added a cadmium type yellow and a very pale brown. There's a little bit of orange there, make use, and a little bit of purple. So these all together will make a little underwater scene with shadows around the water lilies. So here we go, going down to the bottom. Let's first of all do a bit of green mix. I'm mixing on there. I think I might dabble into my gel. Just a little, put a bit of gel in, yeah. Put some brown into these greens. It's this strange underwater look of blanket weed. Light brown, a little bit of yellow. I'll pinch a bit of that orange out, a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going here. I'm using a very small flat brush, by the way. It's a rough hog's hair, so it sort of scrubs the paint on and off. Just film that for the moment. when you're doing your painting for a gift for somebody or whatever, don't worry too much about this detail. Just have an idea what it was that Monet was trying to do. He was trying to show surface of water with lilies on top of the water. So actually having everything in the right plane roughly is correct. So these actually, if you looked across, they would all be on one flat plane. And an idea of the colours. Because at this point he was painting quite, I won't say badly, but his eyesight affected him quite badly. Right, I'm scrubbing green on. I'm going to scrub a bit of brown on with that. Okay, I'm coming back over here. So we've got now this green goes very dark in places. Look at this iridium green there, going underneath that lily. It's dark around there. The problem is you have to go from side to side correcting things. There's more purple under here. Makes those lilies stand up a little bit. You see, there's not a lot of actual detail in the lilies. They are really smudges of colour. So we can get away with quite a lot there. And then we've got some bits of blue and green to put in. I'm just going to wipe this brush, a bit of kitchen towel, get most of the purple off. And go back to my green. Is those dark areas caused by the lilies sitting on top of the water. But don't forget, this is an impression. Monet was an impressionist, the first of the impressionists really, and he liked to paint impressions, probably due to his poor eyesight. So, I'm just going to put this brush down and this palette down for a moment. Have a quick look at where I'm going next. I might do some blue. So I'm just going to grab my blue palette and put some darker blues into here down at the bottom, and little bits of dark blue all around those lilies here to show a little bit of depth nearer to you. And then there are a few places around that need just touches. We're getting towards the end of the painting. So I've got my blues, I've added a bit more ultramarine, and this pale blue and white and a bit of purple. I've got another flitch, well, it's one of the flitches I've been using, I just washed it to be honest. And this is a bit of gel on there, so I'm going to just smear the gel into the palette. Then take a bit of this ultramarine, tiny bit of purple. Look at that, that's the colour for this corner down here. I'm being hampered by my own brushes. Okay, quite like that actually as well. Accidental effect. Bob Ross would talk about that. Happy little accidents, they do happen. So just go with them. And then we've got dark blue in here. See, I'm using the flitch in all sorts of different directions. You see me turning it every now and then because I want to narrow a piece of paint on. You can do all of that, don't worry about it. Experiment a little bit. That's better being darker. I'm not copying the Monet, I'm using his ideas, not copying his painting. I'm using bits of it and putting it together in my mind. A little bit of white into this blue. This purple. What I just did then was pick up a little bit of gel on the brush to thin the paint down, to give me an effect that I wanted at the time. But I'm still just using those short, sharp strokes. I'm not worrying too much how correct they are. I've just got in mind all the time that this is the surface of water that you can slightly see through, that the sun is on from above. Now, I've got this purpley stuff on my brush, and it's very thin. So I've got this thin purple, purpley blue. Right, back down to here. I've got a lot of blue in this corner to put in, but it needs to be fairly dark. So I'm mixing ultramarine with purple. See how the colours mix together? Very handy sometimes using gels, because you can put some colour in and it mixes in with all the other things and gives you the impression of what you're trying to paint, which is the surface of water in this case. Like I said before, this is a quick painting that you can do for yourself as a gift for somebody, but because it's a Monet, it can be very fast and give you an impression of what you're trying to say to people, what you're trying to show them. Now, I've made a little error here. I've got all this in the wrong colour. Just forgotten to put the blue in. Okay, some bits of detail missing from the water lilies. We'll go back to those in a moment. Just going to have a quick look up here. Little bits of green missing up here. A few areas that should be darker. If you lean back away from the painting, you can sort of see anything that you need to change. So I'm just going into the middle at the bottom again. So I'm using this picture of water lilies, and although mine isn't exactly the same, I'm using the same type of techniques, but there are 3 water lilies here, 1, 2, 3, and I am going to use them on my painting over here. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do that quickly. So I've got my pinks here. I might just put a little bit of gel there. I've got a little clean flat brush, but I've just put the gel in. I'm going to use that. This is a brush I used earlier, but I've washed it. I'll talk about washing brushes for a moment. I wash my brushes in this sort of stuff. This is a low odour thinner that I use to clean my brushes, and occasionally, very occasionally, white spirit if they've got really dirty. So I wash them well in that, dip them in, scrub it out, and then I take them into the kitchen and wash them in hot water and washing up liquid. A lot of washing up liquid, and then dry them off, and they come out really quite nicely with the bristles all ready to paint again. So I've got my pinks, and I'm going to go up here and show you where I'm going to put them on. A little bit of that red, quite a bit of white, smidgy poos of blue. So that's the colour I want. I might add more white as I go. I'm just going to put that down and go up to the painting. Bit of kitchen roll, made it into a ball. I'm putting one on here. I'm putting one here. And I'm putting one here. Okay. Right, get rid of that into the bin. So what I did was take off some of the excess paint, because the excess paint is either green or blue, and it just won't work very well with the pink. So I'm just putting some pink on. I'll put a bit of white into it. On that one. This one is quite light, so I'll just put a bit of white onto the brush. And then this one is sort of leaning this way. Looks like a little shuttlecock. Okay, and the bottoms of them you see as the deeper red. And I'll put a little bit of blue into it. Okay, so I'm going to have to put some darker paint around there to make that stand up. There's something here that looks like the beginning of a water lily down at the bottom. Just there. This water lily here is quite pink. That is an error. Should have been quite pale. Let's pick a bit of white up there. There's white on there. White on there. Still got the pink on the brush, I'm not worried. back to all that. Okay, we're getting on now, we're getting towards the end, it's just little bits of detail now. I'm just going to go across to this other side, still got this pinky white on the brush. Okay, just going to have a little break and pick my green up again and start putting some other bits of green into these water lilies to bring a little bit more shape into them. I've got my green palette again. I've put on a little squirt of sap green here and a bit more white. Otherwise it's the palette I had a few minutes ago. Same flat brush, I've just wiped it on kitchen roll. It actually has got purple in the bristles and now it's also got gel. So I'm just going to smear that gel over there. And here we go. So I'm starting here just to put in a little bit of Monism. And he's got right in the centre of this like that. It needs a bigger shadow underneath. Here, this actually isn't too bad, so I'm just going to lightly darken the end of that. Go back to this one. Just working my way back across, won't touch that too much. I'm not going to touch any of those too much. This one here, there's a bit more green. I'm not going to touch those anymore. I'm going to call all that part done. Got some purple. Not going to worry what's on the brush. Just underlining those. quite dark here, purple and green together. Okay. We'll call that done. Let's not worry over much. A little bit here needs to be darker. And then we're going to trot over to this side. Just going to smear some green onto the brush. This is a sort of a dirty green on the actual painting, so just smearing and dabbing. It's a bit of a reflection. And here, just above it, the reflection turns pale. Have a bit of white in. Okay. Just keep working my way up. It's dark enough around there, just needs a touch more dark here. And then I just need to add a little bit of purple. Just putting a little bit of purple onto the palette. Still using the green palette. So, dark purple. You can see how it throws up everything around it. Then I'm going to put some green in here in a moment. There's also some purple here, just to give that floating effect, I think. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Just going to clean my brush on a cloth, because I want to use the same brush and I don't want all the paint out of it. So I'm using darks, and then I've got my green mixtures here in the middle, a little bit of yellow going in, touch of that orange, not pale enough, a little bit of white in here. I suspect that this is water hyacinth, because it seems to be poking through the water lilies. A bit more brown and yellow in there. And then there's more around here. Just keep up that Monet style. Keep the brush moving, dabbling away, dabble bits of colour on. When it looks right to you, it's right. That's what you have to remember. I've got green and purple together. much about detail, maybe a little. Going to wipe the brush on a cloth again. Pick up bits of green. There's the blue palette just as we left it. Bit of purpley blue on the brush. This paint is all still wet, so I'm mixing to some degree. Just going to have a bit of confidence, see how it comes out. We're not copying a Monet, that would be wrong anyway probably. You want your own version. This is perhaps a gift for somebody and you like your version. So just be confident. Mixed a bit of white with that blue that I had. A bit more blue into that. Bit more blue in again, I'm going a little bit higher. Blue and white, blue and white. It's quite blue here. So mixing blue and purple. Work at it fast, and it looks more like water. All those different colours in the reflection. Then up the top, right at the very top again, quickly. Just got purple on the brush. And then there's some, oh, I see some green that I've missed. I'm just dropping my blue palette, picking up my green palette, and there's some yellow, pale yellow that I've missed right at the very top. I'm just going to put down my green brush, pick up the pink brush I was using earlier, squirt a bit of yellow into that palette, pick up a bit of the white here, and going to this part we've got yellow, yellow here, floating lily flowers, obviously, in that bit of distance. And we've got little bits of purple between the lily pads. Well, I think we can call this almost complete. A little bit of dark here. We don't want to fiddle around with this too much. We've used Monet's style. We've done a nice quick painting. We've done it using some technique and style of Monet. It's not as great as Monet, we know that. Doesn't matter. It's in his style. It's his type of painting. It's an impression of water lilies. You can title it Impression of Water Lilies for Auntie Lily for Christmas. And you can give it as a gift, you can keep it on your wall. It takes you hardly any time at all, it can all be complete in a day. The colours are lovely, it'll go with anything. We can put our name on. You can put after Monet, but you have to write it in a different style of script to him. Doesn't matter, I wouldn't put anything on at all. Just a painting that you can give for Christmas. What a gift! A member of your family getting a Monet-esque, genuine, unique oil painting. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, please. And I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope the recipient of your Monet has an even happier one. So it's goodbye from Wills. See you again soon.